Hi, YouTube fans. This is Matt of Post April 6th YouTube channel. I'm back here again for part 2. Part 2 is going to be about 1997 until 30 minutes of time has gone by. Now, what part of the year between 1997 and now is going to be the ending part of part 2? I don't know yet. I'll just keep reading. Okay, so I'll start with January of 1997. I officially started a business called Matt's Pipe Rejuvenation Company, a company that cleaned and sanitized estate briar pipes, cherry wood pipes, and all types of tobacco smoking pipes. And I would outsource pipe repairs, i.e. stem replacement, adding a nickel or sterling silver gold plated bands, splicing cracked shanks, and adding vulcanite or leucinite ferrules to the shank, and did researching for collectible estate pipes for avid pipe collectors. As of, it says 2022, but as of 2025, I owned over 300 different briar pipes. I mean, that's true. I don't have any 300 briar pipes in my possession, on hand in my personal possession right now, but I've owned over 300, that I'd buy a couple dozen, then I'd sell most of them, and then I'd buy something else. Okay, but never had more than 3 to 35 pipes at one time, which means just pretty much the same as what I just said. On September of 1997, I got hired at Smokers Inn and worked at Hannock Cleaners, meaning I had 3 jobs instead of just one. Until December of 1997. In December of 1997, I worked at Office Max and Smokers Inn, and I ran the business when I had the time. January of 1998, I was laid off from Smokers Inn and worked at Office Max and ran a business too. April of 1998, I ended Matt's Pipe Rejuvenation Company, aka Matt's Pipe Company, and worked at Office Max only until I made another change. June of 1998, I got hired as a bellman at Executive Tower Hotel until September of 1998. September 18th, 1998. My grandmother, Muriel Roper Richardson, died of terminal cancer. She was 76 years of age when she died. That was really sad for me, and I remember seeing my father cry really hard at her funeral after he gave a touching eulogy at the pastoral podium. October of 1998, this was a major turning point in my life. I became a born-again Christian, and I started attending church regularly. And I owned a leather-bound King James Bible, 1611 original version of the Holy Bible. 2 Timothy 2:26 is a good verse of the Bible. So is John 3:16, but in this timeline, that's what I wrote. And I still mean both of what I just said. November of 1998, I was hired at Ross Stores Incorporated, located on the 5900 block of South University Boulevard, and I was hired as an area supervisor. I repeat, it was a management job. I was an area supervisor. Sunday, November 22nd, 1998, Me and Dad were at Mile High Flea Market, and he bought me a 486 IBM compatible personal computer, or a PC, with a monitor and a keyboard, and it also had a mouse. That was my first computer I ever owned. December 4th, 1998. After my workday ended at Ross Stores, I arrived at Cherry Creek 8 movie theater to see a remake of Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. And this version was interesting. It displayed some mannerisms of Norman Bates, the character, that displayed how sick in the head he, Norman, would have been if he was real. January 18th, 1999. I had a bad day at Ross Stores. The next day, after an assistant manager smarted off to me for the 100th time, I abruptly resigned and left the company and found another job. January 25th, 1999. I began working at Holiday Inn on Glenarm Place in the heart of downtown Denver. I was a reservations agent. January 25th, 1999. No, wait a minute, I already said that. Duh. Sorry. June of 1999, I stopped attending Corona Presbyterian Church and started working really hard to make something of myself as a businessman. And, well, I already filed a trade name before that, so why did I notate that? Good grief. I worked really hard to make a living. I even donated blood plasma at a place near 4th Avenue and Sable in the far eastern Aurora, Colorado. But in August I was turned away because my blood pressure was too high. Plus I used a brand new IBM CPU I bought at a computer store located in the Safeway Shopping Center on the 1600 block of South Colorado Boulevard. A computer with a CD-ROM, Windows 98, and a good sound card too. What I should have notated was I bought that thing in May of 1998. Or excuse me, May of 1999, not in June of 1999. September of 1999, I got hired at Hamden Inn of Glendale, and I worked there for 2 weeks. I quit working there due to dealing with an egotistical assistant general manager, and then I got hired at Office Depot just before my abrupt resignation. In November of 1999, I ended the side business I had with Ambassador Pipe Company, and it was a time in my life where emotionally I was messed up, I was depressed, and had a definite struggle. In late February of 2000, yep, this is after Y2K and all that turn of the century, I was not in as bad of a emotional struggle, and I quit working at Office Depot. The store on East Ohio Avenue and South Colorado Boulevard was in shambles. The manager did not manage things very well, and he kept hiring people who were third-rate screw-ups. Late February to early April of 2000, I worked as a customer service agent in training at MCI WorldCom, and after the first day of taking calls, I quit working there the next day and got hired at CompUSA Computers. April 8th, 2000. I worked as a cashier at CompUSA. That day was my first full day working there. Working there as a cashier, meaning, is what I meant. May of 2000. I started retaining an attorney at a location near where I lived so I could file Chapter 13 bankruptcy protection. July 4th, 2000. After working at CompUSA, I took RTD bus Route 28 all the way to West 28th Avenue and Kipling Street. Then, on a payphone, called my dad and asked him to come and pick me up so I could get a ride to his nice house on Quail Place in Lakewood, Colorado. A home that is almost affluent. I had a nice family celebration on 4th of July. Election Day 2000. Phew! That day was a fiasco. The Electoral College votes were literally 50-50 in percentages. And there was a major legal battle for another 30 to 40 days. Brutal, brutal thing for the country to go through. A few days before Election Day, my father and his wife moved from Lakewood, Colorado to Pueblo, Colorado to get into real estate investing. Just before the move, I was given a couch and a oak coffee table with a matching end/lamp table too, because my dad helped me move all that stuff in there to have a more nicer living room. Christmas Eve of 2000. After a hard day working at CompUSA, I got in the car and went along for a nice car ride from my dinky apartment in Congress Park, Denver, Colorado, and got to see my dad's new home in Pueblo, Colorado, because this was the very first time I'd been there. February of 2001, the general manager at CompUSA was pressured to resign from the company. He fudged the sales numbers. No, it's true. He was in big trouble. You know, all the managers said resign or else. And the next day, a man named Rex replaced him. April of 2001, I took a week off from CompUSA and got a paid vacation too. The drawback was my rent at my apartment would be raised from $400 a month to $450 a month. Boo hoo hoo. Well, I mean, that hurt my wallet, but I learned to deal with it. July of 2001, I quit working at CompUSA and got hired at Adams Mark Hotel, now a Sheraton Hotel. The site is on Court Place near 16th Street Mall of Denver. September 9th of 2001, I worked at Best Buy on South Colorado Boulevard as a cashier, and I did that until 30 to 40 days later. Mid-October 2001, I worked at Hollywood Video as a manager in training, and I was only making about $5.75 an hour. So things got better by November. November 13th, 2001, was my first day at Tamarack Square Ace Hardware. I helped reassemble the store after it was temporarily closed down after the mall was closed down due to a massive rainstorm. Actually, it was a massive hailstorm that damaged the roof, causing the roof of Ace Hardware to cave in. Thanksgiving of 2001. I took a Greyhound ride to Pueblo so I could celebrate Thanksgiving with my dad and my stepmom. February 13th of 2002. Got a 90-day review at Ace Hardware, and I got some harsh criticism, but I was offered a probationary extension to redeem myself. 14 days later, I got a good review. May 12th of 2002. I got hired part-time at Interstate Theaters LLC / Cinemark, and I worked at Ace Hardware 2. That extra money helped me pay off some bills. October of 2002. I was nearly debt-free. I just had to continue paying my monthly fee of $70 a month for 10 more months as part of the Chapter 13 bankruptcy plan, repayment plan. Christmas of 2002. I spent 3 days in Pueblo again, and I had a nice time. March of 2003. Whoa! It was a blizzard of 2003, a real doozy of all doozies. I did some shoveling of snow in the backside of the theater. It was really cold winter weather. I considered moving to Los Angeles for over a week or so. Then I decided against moving to California. May 1st, 2003, because this political event really happened. I resigned from the theater, and I was a write-in candidate for Denver City Council at large. I only got 6 votes. August of 2003, 2 major events. I got hired at Walgreens as a cashier and sales associate, but still had a job at Ace Hardware. And on August 17th, 2003, I no longer had to make Chapter 13 bankruptcy payments to the local trustee office. October of 2003, I grew a full beard and kept it for 3 weeks until I shaved it off, and a co-worker who was likely a meth addict named Ryan was fired from Tamarack Ace Hardware, and he never ever came back. He harassed a nice female general manager named Cheryl at Tamarack Ace Hardware. Thanksgiving of 2003, I celebrated Thanksgiving with Dad and a buddy of Dad's. The buddy picked me up at my apartment building and drove me to Dad's house over 100 miles away. Christmas of 2003, I celebrated at my cousin John Mudd Jr. and Sr.'s home and saw Joe Mudd and Julie, because they're brother and sister, Julie Reisinger as well. I had a lot of fun. New Year's Day of 2004, I ate a great meal at New York Deli News to celebrate New Year's brunch with Ace Hardware. The meal was for free. Late January of 2004, I started helping Roland Chicas run for Congress, a Republican challenger against Diane DeGette. March of 2004, got a decent tax refund, and paid off a lot of bills and bought some needed items. July 24th, 2004 approximately. I was approved for a nice apartment at Tamarack Village Apartments on 3300 South Tamarack Drive. I was able to vacate St. James Place Apartments on 13th Avenue and Columbine Street. That 13th Avenue Congress Park area was turning into a crazy hellhole. August 2nd, 2004, all of the moving was finished, and I started unpacking and setting up my new apartment. Phew, a nice treat. And I was across the street from Tamarack Square Mall, meaning I was across the street from my job. September 2nd, 2004, I attended a party where me and Roland and his niece Ivana watched the renomination of George W. Bush at the Republican National Convention. November 2nd, 2004, my friend Roland lost his quest to unseat DeGette, so DeGette got reelected to Congress. But President George W. Bush was re-elected. Thanksgiving of 2004, I celebrated that holiday at my cousin Julie's house and visited with my cousin John Jr. January 10th, 2005. A manager who turned into a major alcoholic and a blabbermouth abruptly resigned from Tamarack Ace Hardware. She was caught shoplifting. She badmouthed my father, plus she depicted him like he was the meanest man in the world and thought that because my dad spanked me for misbehaving that he was committing severe child abuse. And he was not. He was teaching me not to be a disrespectful punk. October 31st, 2005. I moved from Tamarack Village Apartments to the Glen Apartments on East Girard Avenue. Mid-March of 2006, I took my first trip to California and stayed at Carlsbad and Carson, California. Now, this is two different parts of Southern California that are at least 94 miles apart. A year after Roland and his wife moved to Carlsbad, California. It was really great adventure. It was my first trip to California in 21 years. I repeat, it was my first trip to California in 21 years. I spent the last 36 hours in Carson, LA Metro, and toured another part of LA Metro where I went into several pipe shops, and I also bought a nice briar pipe at the original Tinderbox. December 2006 to March 2007. It snowed an awful lot. And in mid-March, the snow finally left the ground, and then I made serious efforts to be living in San Diego, California. May of 2007, I took a flight to San Diego International Airport and stayed with Roland's brother Rudy. And on the first night after I fell asleep in his living room, I was snoring like a big bear. That meant I was suffering from sleep apnea. And after the job fair, I concluded I would not be eligible for certain jobs. And I canceled the whole thing. I returned back to Denver and retracted my 30-day notice to vacate the Glen and signed a 1-year lease. January of 2008, I took my first trip to San Francisco, California, and stayed at the La Quinta Inn, South San Francisco, and saw some really neat things, such as Alcatraz Federal Prison Museum, San Leandro, California, a Pez Museum at Burlingame, California, the Cable Car Museum, and I took one ride on the I took one ride on the cable car trolley car and hung out at Hyde Pier, San Francisco. February of 2008, I began enrolling in MMI International, which is Money Management International, debt counseling to make good on lots of debts. March to November of 2008, I had to tolerate putting up with some co-workers at Tamarack Ace Hardware that were a lot to put up with. A few days before Thanksgiving of 2008, I had a bad dizzy spell after drinking a Dr. Pepper soda, followed by blurred vision. I stopped consuming all forms of sugary sodas, candies, and regular meals that had sugar in them. In a week, I lost 5 pounds, and a year later, I lost 45 to 55 more pounds. March of 2009, I stopped getting involved in money management debt program and made efforts to file bankruptcy a 3rd time. Well, after a few years, my bills faded away and were charged off, except for IRS debt. And in 2011, I paid the IRS debt off and was free and clear with the IRS by the end of 2010. Late April of 2009, I took a trip to Los Angeles due to a heavily discounted package deal where I had to pay $249 for a round-trip airfare, Clarion Inn, and stayed at a Clarion Inn hotel on Avalon Boulevard in Carson, California. And while I was there, I took a trip to Universal Studios theme park and visited with a local tobacco shop named Briar Rose. I had a bunch of fun on that trip, but I made sure not to spend too much money. June 20th, 2009, I adopted a new cat, a female cat with mostly bright white fur and with a few cute black spots, a black heart-shaped nose, and a black tail. Her name is Penguin. She kind of looked like a penguin. Well, I've came to nearly 30 minutes, but there will be more about 2009 and afterward in part 3. Thank you everyone for listening to this vlog, and goodbye now. Thanks a lot.